All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to This Week in Pop Culture, the show in which we give you the goings on in the past week in the world of pop culture, whether we're talking about local news, film and TV news, sports news, tech news, what have you. We try to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movies and Shakers Unlimited. And as always, I'm not going to be alone in talking about the said topics for this past said week. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mr. Spillman Trueheart, a.k.a. Spills. What is going on, sir? Oh, you're muted. Go ahead.
Oh man,
Go ahead.
I got my street clothes on, so we'll have some conversations. We will
Okay,
have some
street clothes.
conversations
Yes, we
today.
will. For sure, we will. But yes, welcome, as I said, to This Week in Pop Culture. Spills, we had quite a few things that happened this past said week. When we're talking about pop culture, whether it was a passing that we had of an icon this past said week, as well as some sports things to get into. We have a small little game happening in a couple of hours, but before we get into that too, we had some stuff that happened around the NBA. And to wrap it all up, we also have a small little changing of the guard with the House of Mouse. So without further ado, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
All right, excellent. So with that, we're going to dive into our first story, and as always, efforts will be made in order to timestamp each of the stories that we talk about today accordingly. But we're going to start this week's show with our sports cooler segment, as a number of things happened this past said week. We're going to start, and let me bring it up for you guys. We're going to start first on Monday, as we had the 1-year anniversary of the Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade that saw Luka go to the Lakers and AD go to the Mavs. Now, 1 year later, what have we learned? Well, Luka is leading the league in scoring as a Laker, and AD has again been shipped to another team, this time to the Wizards. More on that later. Moving to Tuesday, the NBA received a major player shakeup, as I just teased just now, as the NBA trade deadline arrived at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. Once the dust cleared, some teams were made the better, while others, in my opinion, were arguably downgraded in terms of their personnel. And lastly, today we have the final game of the 2025-2026 NFL season, with Super Bowl LX kicking off today at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on NBC, Peacock, as well as NFL Plus, featuring a matchup between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. The former is going after its seventh trophy, while the latter is going after its second. So Spills, as I just said, going through all of that, a jam-packed sports cooler segment this week. Your thoughts on our NBA stories, as well as the big game happening in a few hours?
Well, as a fan of the winner of the Anthony Davis Luka Doncic trade, I smile fondly. I was actually looking at some recaps of of people reacting to it in real time, like
Yeah.
that famous video of Ice Cube Jr., where he's on some kind of wrestling podcast, and he's sitting there like I'm sitting here, and he's just like, you can see that he's like looking at his phone, and then he's like, the Lakers got Luka. And the guy that's on it is like, there's no way that the Lakers got Luka. The Lakers have Anthony Davis. They couldn't have traded Anthony Davis for Luka. And
Lo and
surely,
behold.
lo and behold, the Lakers made the right move. Anthony Davis he quickly got injured. He got injured like within the month of the trade being completed.
Shocking no one. Yeah.
And has been traded since then. He got traded about 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago now, He was traded to the Wizards, and he shut it down. He told the Wizards he's not playing for them. So
Right.
just absolutely bananas. We're sitting here getting ready for a new season of Anthony Davis being bad, and also a new season of people stealing money for the Wizards. More importantly, I think that we can talk
Right.
about that, but
Right.
as a Lakers fan, we always buy low and sell high. I don't know how we always do that.
I'll give y'all props.
we
I'll give
traded
y'all
we traded all
props.
those guys. We traded all those guys that people was like, no, these guys are going to be all stars. There's like one all star out of them, and it was like one all star. Brandon Ingram is two all stars. I'm sorry, Julius Randle also got a all star appearance, but trading all those guys to New Orleans for Anthony Davis for a championship was worth it, and then trading Anthony Davis for the leading scorer in the NBA right now was worth it. So I can't be sad. I love Anthony Davis's time with the Lakers. He won us a chip. He took us to another conference finals. So, can't be mad at it. But, people talk bad about Rob Pelinka and say that they need to fire him. I don't understand why they need to fire him. Rob Pelinka is real good at fleecing people. So, to me, they get mad about the Westbrook trade, but that was just they thought Westbrook was going to come in there and be gangbusters, and he wasn't. So, you know, what can we say? But
Well, in lieu of the 1 year anniversary, what are your thoughts on a lot of the player movement? Obviously, we're not going to have time to go through all the player movement that transpired over that period, but are there any that you feel are overrated, and are there any that you feel that are underrated in terms of what happened?
I feel the expectation of the DMV natives that seem to think that Anthony Davis is going to play for them is underrated and overrated. And what are y'all thinking? You think that that man wants to play for y'all terrible franchise? No, he doesn't want to play for the Wizards. So to me, it's interesting that that the Wizards got him was tremendous because the guys that they sent, those guys are not good. Dallas obviously looked at their roster and said, Cooper Flag is the guy for us. He's a real power forward. Ironically, I heard someone say that they traded Anthony Davis because he said that they needed to get a center again. And they said, Cooper Flag is our power forward, Anthony. So if you're not our center, then we are trading you. So that's what they did. It's just sad to hear that that's the thing that happened again. I don't believe that happened. I think that that's just somebody being funny on the internet. But I
Are there
just
any
think
underrated moves that we had that you liked?
I like the James Harden move. I think it was a couple of weeks ago that we saw Darius Garland literally throw up on himself in a game where they were up 10 and he gave up like 12 points or something in the fourth quarter. And was not scoring. And they need somebody who's dynamic with Donovan Mitchell to try to win a chip. The East is wide open this year. There is no really good East team.
It is.
I think that pairing Donovan Mitchell at the prime of his career with a dynamic point guard, which Mitchell is not. Donovan Mitchell is not a point guard. Pairing him with James Harden and someone who can really effectively shoot the ball, who's not really a slasher anymore, who is perfectly fine with the yeah tray ball, which is what they needed, and Darius Garland was not going to give them, is perfect. He's got Jared Allen, which is a great lob threat, and we saw how he made Clint Capella millions of dollars all those years ago. I just think that this is exactly what the Cavs needed to take that next step to at least the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that they may make the finals this year. I won't say championship, but I think that they make the finals this year. How about you?
Okay, well, I'll say this, and then we can dive into the, Super Bowl of it all, with that happening in a few hours. But just in general, with starting first with the anniversary of the Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade, there hasn't. I'll be honest with you, there hasn't been anything that has been surprising about what has transpired with that. The only thing that has been surprising is Luka Doncic leading the league in scoring. But I feel like that's really just more of a result of him dedicating himself to getting in shape. I feel like because of that dedication to do that has resulted in him being the leading scorer. Because if he wasn't, we would be having a different conversation. He would he will obviously still be an all NBA player, but he wouldn't be the leading scorer of the league. So I feel like the fact that he has dedicated his body to being at its maximum has translated to him being the leading scorer in the league. And who knows, if he had done it sooner, we would be having this conversation probably more than once in his career. But I feel like that's just a direct translation of that. You know how I feel about AD. AD, when healthy, obviously is a uber talented, top 10, top 5 player in the league, easy. But he's not a very durable player. And because of that, that has not only, I feel like, hurt your squad when he was with the Lakers, where there could have been other personnel that you could have had in that spot that you could have gotten more play out of. But it's also translated even to what the intention was with Dallas, which was to have a trio of him, Kyrie, and Cooper Flag, which never came to be. Now they'll at least have perhaps the duo of Kyrie and Cooper Flag, but I know initially the intention was to have Anthony Davis be a part of that trio, of that triumvirate, if you will. And unfortunately, we will never know. It will always be a what if, just like we've had with some other trios that just never came to be. When we're talking about the New Jersey Nets, when we had Durant and Harden. Speaking of Harden, Kevin Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. The few times that they played, it was impossible. Yeah, it was impossible to really guard that team. But again, staying healthy at the same time and being on the floor at the same time makes a difference. I don't care what your personnel, page says on paper. Are they actually physically going to be able to be on the floor together to be able to play? In terms of Harden, I do like that in terms of a short-term fix, but long-term, I don't see that playing out. And I'm still curious, even in the short term, how that's going to work too, because while he is a player that can facilitate an offense, he is still a ball dominant player. And Spider is a ball dominant shooting guard. I don't see him coming off of screens like you would have with the Reggie Miller or what you would have with a Steph Curry. Steph Curry, I feel like, can adapt in both styles of play. He doesn't mind coming off screens, and he can put the ball on the floor. But with Donovan Mitchell, it's different in that while he is a all-time great, he still needs to have the ball in his hand. He doesn't. In terms of his style of play, he does not strike me as the type where he is coming off of screens and coming off of screens to be a catch and shoot player. So I really am interested to see how that's going to work with both of those said guards being ball dominant guards. But in terms of being able to win right now, short term, I do feel like in the short term, if they're trying to win right now, then they might be able to make some noise in the Eastern Conference, because as you said, it's wide open. But going through a couple of other ones that did strike me, we talked about Anthony Davis and we talked about Trae Young. And when it comes to the Wizards, and I've mentioned it here on the show before, is when it comes to the Wizards, unfortunately, we get a lot of players, which actually seems like an actual curse when it comes to a lot of our sports teams, Commanders included. Sorry to include y'all, but it is the facts. Is that we get players when they are on the slide down from where their prime was. So we're hoping that we're still going to get the prime of that said player, but a lot of their prime has been played with the prior franchise that they were with before
Michael Jordan. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Dang. I don't believe that just happened.
Wow. You see this, y'all? You see this?
Dang,
But While I do feel like Trae Young has some more years in him, I don't feel that way about AD. He could prove me wrong, but I just don't see it as of right now. Um, Going through a few other moves that were made, I'm glad that we were able to finally get rid of John Kaminga. John Kaminga is a talented player, but it doesn't do the locker room any favors by having a player that's disgruntled and wants to leave. If a player wants to leave, allow them to leave, so that way it doesn't mess up the chemistry that you have in the locker room and with that team. So I'm glad that we were able to move him to another team. I don't like that we had to get rid of Buddy Hield. I know that he has been struggling as of late when it comes to his shooting, but he still is a shooter. And we could use all the shooters that we can get. I don't know how I feel about Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis is a very versatile player, but in the same way that we have with AD, he is not very durable. So my concern is, while he does give us size, is he going to be able to play long term? And I don't see that as of yet from what we've seen in the past. And minus the fact that he has championship experience undoubtedly with the Celtics, we still have to remember, while he was a key part of that team, there were still other pieces that they had that helped win the championship as well. I like Zubac with the Pacers. I know it's not really going to be a short-term fix. It's going to be really a long-term, long-game fix that they have once they, get some of their personnel healthy again. But once the Pacers are mended and a lot of them are back, I like that piece of Zubac being with the Pacers and giving them that size. I also like Vucevic with the Celtics. I like the size that he has there. I don't like that they had to get rid of Simmons to do so, because I feel like Simmons gave them some versatility and it gave them some more scoring off the bench. I don't like the fact that they had to get rid of him. But if it meant that you were able to get some size, then so be it. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on the Cole Anthony addition with the Suns. A lot of us forget that. What is it? I'm brain farting the franchise player. Help me out here, Spills, with the Suns currently. Devin Booker.
Devin Booker.
Yeah, with Devin Booker with the Suns, they didn't really have a facilitator on that team. And there have been a lot of occasions where Booker has been the one trying to run the offense. And I feel like Booker is at his best when he's playing off the ball. Don't get me wrong. I feel like he's capable of playing being your point guard. But I feel like you maximize his talent by him being your off guard versus him being your point guard running your offense. And by having someone like Cole Anthony, I feel like now they have someone who he can run with that allows him to be the best version of himself, versus him having to sacrifice, some of that offense to be able to be that playmaker for that said team. But those are just a taste of a couple of things that I saw. And then, of course, the Lakers only, I feel, get better by having an additional shooter, by having Luke Kennard there. I feel like that ups things for you guys. Even though I know you're aware that defense is still something that you guys need to improve in, sometimes the best defense is a good offense, and by making your defense slightly better, that might be enough to make things interesting. So we'll see. But
I feel like Luke Kennard was a piece for the future, not really for this Lakers team as currently constituted. With LeBron James on the team, we will need a better 3-and-D guy, because he cannot play defense anymore. He's an old man. Sad to say, he's the GOAT, but he's an old GOAT.
I'm sorry. He's what? He's
the GOAT.
But
he's GOAT.
But you said
an old GOAT. No one.
Okay.
We don't lie.
Okay.
He's averaging way more points than Michael Jordan ever did at his age.
What about defense? What happened with the defense?
He
Who
doesn't
you
play
saying?
defense.
Oh,
He
okay.
doesn't play
Okay,
defense. We
cool.
said
Okay,
that. We
cool.
know that.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
He can still
I
dunk
just want to
though.
check.
He can still
I
dunk. He's playing good offense. We
I just
playing
wanted to
for
make sure
offense.
I heard you.
That's what
I had to
DeAndre's for. Ayton's
I had
for
to
playing
clear the wax out of
defense.
there and make sure I heard you
Ladies and
okay.
gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. How do you feel about the possibility of the Warriors moving away from Draymond? Because it's the first time we've heard real rumblings that they wanted to move
Good
Draymond.
question. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that Draymond deserves to retire as a Warrior. It's a shame that they didn't
I
allow
agree.
Klay Thompson to retire as a Warrior. That franchise thinking that they just made a championships and people want to move to Oakland are sadly mistaken. That's not a place that has attracted free agents traditionally. They need to put them boys in the rafters and make sure that they pay him the money that they owe him. He's a second round pick. You can't have to pay him too much money. He's an old man. Sure, he's terrible, but you gotta sing the swan song. So how do you feel about that?
So let me start first with the terrible piece. I don't believe that he's terrible. I feel like that he is a key component in terms of the defensive makeup and the pride that goes with the Warriors. He is a key piece in terms of helping to facilitate the offense. A lot of those assists, and if you look all time, that Steph Curry has been able to score off of have been assists that have come from Green. A lot of people kind of sleep on that fact, but they
He's
are
your
one.
point. He's been your
They
point guard
they
the whole
they are.
time. He's the
He
point guard.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They have been a potent 1-2 punch, and having years and years of that chemistry and that knowledge of each other's game helps a lot in terms of the consistency, the consistency of greatness that you have there. However, I will say this: while a lot of his antics have resulted in wins in the past, now as the years have gone by and those antics have continued, the patience has become significantly less of, okay, we understand that you have an edge to you, that a lot of this a lot of the antics are just a part of who you are and that style of play. There's in some cases they're still not resulting in wins, and there is not resulting in at the end of the day helping the team and helping the chemistry of the team. So I feel like while they kind of swept it under the rug, that incident that happened with him and Kerr, where he like walked away from the team and went to the locker room. I feel if there was a little more there than they cared to really share, and that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back of them making the decision of being on the fence about actually putting him in trade talks. I feel like if that didn't happen, that it would have been probably squashed. But I feel like there was something. While they may have, apologized and done all the, necessary PC things, and with both camps, I still feel like their patience has run out with some of the antics. As great as Green is, and pivotal he's been to the success of the Warriors. And while I still believe that they will raise his jersey in the rafters and all of that, because I don't feel like even by leaving the team that's going to take that away. I now believe that they are willing and are in a headspace now where they're willing to move him to another team for the sake of getting someone, a franchise player like Giannis. So that's just how I feel. Some people may disagree with me, but that's what I've perceived from the actions and the things that I've observed when it comes to that team. Um, but in talking about the Super Bowl, do you have any predictions about who will be winning for the SIG game later today?
So I put this here thinking that Seattle's going to lose. I've heard a lot of people saying that Seattle's going to win. I saw some dude on TikTok that put $33,000. He put all of his social media earnings up because he's a degenerate gambler. I think that
What
because
is
the
a
money
degenerate
is,
gambler?
that's what a degenerate gambler would do. Um, I'm sorry to say that's just what the vibes are, ladies and gentlemen. But I just think that the Patriots. I know that Belichick and Brady are no longer there, but the fact that they're even there is surprising to me. I think the Patriots are going to pull it out again. Seattle
And
is
there's
prone
some
to.
weird coincidences that are similar to that said team. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I just think that somehow New England will come out on top. I'm a little frustrated that I think this, but looking at everything, I don't see how Seattle can do it. They've got too many things that are new there. The winning is too new. They don't have like all of they don't. I can't tell you who their best player is, so I don't feel like there's someone that they can stop. So I'm just interested to see what they do, but I'm pretty sure that the Patriots are going to win. How about you, Brandon?
So I believe it that it will be a low scoring game because there hasn't been, to your credit in talking about the both said teams. Can you agree with me that this has been somewhat of a boring Super Bowl? Like I feel like with prior Super Bowls, there's been a lot of anticipation. There's been a lot of excitement all the way leading up to the game, and I feel like this has been one of the rarefied times where, for a given Super Bowl, it has been pretty quiet. It has been pretty, unremarkable and boring, dare I say. Uh, and with that, I feel like it's going to also translate to the game where I don't foresee that we're going to have a huge exhibition type scoring match back and forth. I feel like it's going to be a low scoring game. I do feel like it's going to be a competitive game, but I feel like it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't have the Pats winning. I do have the Seahawks winning, and it's just by virtue of what we talk about a lot when we're talking about the postseason across any sport. While offense can win you games and it's important in the regular season, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, when you really have to dive in and dig in when it comes to the postseason time, the defense is going to bail you out. And I feel like in that same circumstance, that's going to be the determining factor when we're talking about the Seahawks versus the Pats. So I do feel like I don't feel like it's going to be a blowout game. I do feel like it's going to be a close game, but I will add to that I feel like while it will be a close game, it is going to be a low scoring game. I don't think that it's going to be a huge uh, uh, um, exhibition back and forth of like high powered offenses. So I feel like we may be on different sides of the field. But I will say, as you mentioned, when we're talking about the Pats, there are some weird coincidences and similarities to prior Patriots teams that have won the Super Bowl that they have some similarities to based on what they've been able to accomplish this past season going into the Super Bowl. So yeah, I can see where your head's at. They may be a team of destiny, but I'm gonna give the edge to the Seahawks.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. It looks like they canceled that alternate Super Bowl halftime show that they were going to create. Um, I don't get why they were creating a halftime show, but you know, that's the Grammy of the Year right there. I don't see why you don't want to see the person with the Grammy of the Year
Right.
to perform. Are you looking forward to any? Have you done a preview of any of the commercials? Are you excited for any of the commercials without being too spoilery?
Sure. So I know that typically they Super Bowl is known for having memorable commercials, but even more so, me being a film guy, uh, they always give us sneak peeks at blockbusters because you have such obviously a huge audience that are watching the games. But from what I understand, While I was anticipating, and I'm sure many others were anticipating, an additional trailer for perhaps, say, Avengers Doomsday or Spider-Man Brand New Day, it looks like from what I have been able to glean from various sources is that we may see a shutout where they may hold off on giving additional peaks to those said projects, which is a bummer because I would have, with the unique, shall we say, approach that Doomsday has had, this would have been a nice ribbon on that bow of all these teasers that we have received of various characters that are supposed to appear. This would have been an ideal moment to perhaps get a cinematic look at Doctor Doom. And spoiler alert, while we did get a peek, the slightest of a peek in Fantastic Four, I'm saying full blown, look at the mask, look at like the full gear of how Doom is supposed to look. Maybe a tease of the voice that Robert Downey Jr. is going to have as that character, because will he have the a voice that we're accustomed to as Tony Stark, or is he going to provide some type of accent in terms of how that character is going to sound? So I will be curious with that. But maybe they will surprise us. Maybe they are not being truthful and are in fact going to surprise folks by putting a trailer up. We will see. But at least so far as I know, what has been making the rounds is that we might not get a look at Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man film, which comes out in a couple of months. It comes out this summer, and we won't get a look at the Avengers one. But like I said, the Spider-Man is probably more surprising because we're closer to that than we are to Avengers, which doesn't come out until the end of the year in December. So we'll see. I mean, there are plenty of other films that are coming out too. One that comes to mind is Masters of the Universe. For those that are your classic He-Man fans out there, there are some other huge blockbusters that are coming out. So I would anticipate a film like that would perhaps have a Super Bowl trailer. But there are some other ones too that I can think of. Whether they are horror films, fantasy films, there are a couple of films out there that we have not seen been provided a peek at or look at, and I will be curious to see if we will get a look at them tonight. So we'll see. Of course, if we do, it will be posted across our social media so that way you guys can keep track of a lot of those said looks. But as I said, we will see. But for those of you out there, let us know in the comments how you felt about some of the stories that we had talked about today with this Sports Cooler Talk, whether it is the Luka Doncic and AD trade anniversary. As I said, it's been at least a year, and it's funny, we're talking about that trade, and yet again,
he already got traded.
Yeah, one of those two players already got traded to another team a year later. And then maybe there were some moves that we didn't talk about in terms of the player, the NBA trade deadline that you guys felt were kind of overrated, that too much hype was being placed on, and maybe some that we talked about just now, or maybe some that we didn't bring up that you felt were very underrated and may bear some fruit going into the future. And then lastly, of course, with the Super Bowl being in a couple of hours, let us know your thoughts on that as well, who you have winning and why. But with that, we're going to dive into some unfortunate, somber news, as we did have the passing of an icon this past said week. And it's with the co-founding member of Fifth Dimension. Let me bring that up now with Lamonte McLemore, who died on Tuesday of natural causes at his home in Las Vegas, which was announced via publicist. Born on September 17th, 1935 in St. Louis, where he was also was able to meet his childhood friend Billy Davis Jr., who would himself also become a Fifth Dimension member. Macklemore enlisted in the U.S. Navy, where he trained and worked as an aerial photographer. He later pursued professional baseball as a pitcher in the Los Angeles Dodgers farm system before settling in Southern Cal and turning his attention to music and photography. It was through a chance photo shoot at the Miss Black Beauty pageant in the mid 1960s that he would first meet his other group members, McCoo and LaRue, in late 1965. Macklemore co-founded the Versatiles, which would later become the Fifth Dimension a year later. The group won the Grammy for Record of the Year twice, for Up, Up, and Away in 1968, and for Aquarius / Let the Sunshine in 1970. The group's other hits included another number one song, which was Wedding Bell Blues, Laura Nyro's Stoned Soul Picnic, Go Where You Want to Go, One Less Bill to Answer, and I Didn't Get to Sleep at All. Along the way, they created 7 gold albums and 6 platinum RIAA certified singles. Outside the recording studio, as I mentioned before, Macklemore built a distinguished reputation as a photographer with work spanning entertainment, sports, and editorial portraiture. His images captured many of the figures of the 20th century popular culture, and he contributed to Jet, Ebony, as well as Playboy and People for decades. So, Spills, your thoughts on the passing of this icon?
Sorry to prayers to his family. I think he was one of the greats. Obviously, when you first hear it, the dawning of the age of Aquarius, it sounds like
Right?
it was a white people. Like it was not us, but it was us, ladies and gentlemen. When I found this out about Fifth Dimension, making essentially the soundtrack of the 1960s, the theme song to the 1960s, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That was very interesting. Um, I like the influence of his musical career in Fifth Dimension, and also am interested in what he was able to do as a photographer outside of his musical career. Condolences to his family. Obviously he is more of our parents' generation, so I
Yes.
know of him, but I don't really know. This is a blow, but it's not a blow in that he's like, oh my gosh, he's one of our people, but definitely one of ours. Great to see his career and all the people that celebrated him. How do you feel about him?
So, it, again, condolences to family and friends. And as you said, before my time, definitely during the period of my parents and even my grandparents, if we're talking about the 60s, because they would have been adults at that time versus my parents, being adults when we're talking about the 60s. Parents were still coming up at that time, but I'm sure they would be included in that conversation as it being a part of their childhood, perhaps. But again, in terms of the versatility of what he accomplished in his career, whether we're talking about music, whether we're talking about what he did as a photographer, just as you stated with Aquarius, like Aquarius is such an iconic song, and it is funny, when we're talking about a lot of when we're talking about pop culture in general, it is a song that is used a lot. And whenever I hear that song, it takes me back to a lot of different projects or films and television programs that have utilized that song in their said works. One immediate one that comes to mind, and I don't know if you recall this, they have a moment like that with 20-Year-Old Virgin. where they
Yeah.
have when they play that song. That's one that immediately comes to mind when they're like dancing in the grass, in the field and stuff. It's just it's used for comedic effect, but again, like it is a song that is so iconic and expands beyond many generations in terms of how iconic it has become and its use across time. So again, condolences to family and friends. Incredible, not and I didn't even add the detail. Passed away at 90. Incredible to go and have a life up until 90, because we talk about a lot of times of how a lot of folks are passing away so early, in their lives, considering the the advances in sciences that we have. But 90, man, that's a full life. That is a full life, and an incredible legacy that has been left behind across numerous mediums. So, again, condolences to Lamonte Macklemore, who passed away at 90. With that, we're going to get into our main topic story. So let me do that now, as we did have a changing of the guard, as I mentioned before at the top, from the House of Mouse, which you can see here. And this is centered around Disney having a change of the guard with its CEO. And this this occurrence actually has resulted in us merging two areas of or two different segments, as I feel like it's pivotal not only with our film and TV talk, but also our stream and chill talk. As the Big Mouse, that being Disney, announced a changing of the guard, as it was announced on Tuesday that Josh D'Amaro, who you see here, had been selected to take over Disney as its CEO. According to details provided by the entertainment giant, D'Amaro will be joined by Dana Walden, who is also being promoted to president and chief creative officer. The pair will move into their new roles on March 18th, the same day Disney holds its annual meeting. In addition, D'Amaro will also be named to the company's board at that time as well. So, Spillman, your thoughts on Disney receiving its new CEO this spring officially?
I just know that this guy needs to buy something that's very big. They're losing to Netflix right now. They got rid of their CEO because they haven't been able to put out very good Marvel movies in the last 5 years, and they have gotten dwarfed by Netflix and the streaming wars. Even though they have things like Hulu and all these other ESPN, all these other things, I think that some of the choices that they've made in the last 2 or 3 years are directly reflective of the poor job that the CEO is doing. I think that this new CEO has a tall test in front of him, with the way that it is seeming that Netflix is the new cable. Disney needs to become the new cable, unfortunately. Um, they need to find a way to buy other studios. I mean, obviously, they merged many years back with Fox. Um, Pictures, but there is a real paramount on them taking the next step, because I really feel like Disney could easily be bought by Netflix at this point, and that would be strange in and of itself. But I don't see how they can run as a studio as currently constituted in the way that the streaming wars are run. They have a streaming platform, obviously, that they run in Disney Plus. I pay for it, $38 every month, ladies and gentlemen. That's not a little bit of chump change, but for them to continue to be viable in this market, I don't see how they would not do this. It's surprising that they have a new CEO, but it's not, out of the realm of possibilities. I'm very interested to see what he does with Star Wars, ESPN, like you said, Fox Searchlight, Pixar, Lifetime. Yeah, I'd like to see where they go with this. Uh, they have to buy something else because of all these corporate partners that they have over here in this tree that you put together. None of them is truly an impressive partner that shows that they're getting $38 a month from people. It seems that they're waiting to buy something. I don't know what it is they're going to buy. Maybe they're going to buy, the people who make TV antennas or something. I don't know. But they need to make a move because Netflix has left them in the dust with the purchase of Warner Brothers. So I don't know how you feel about it, but what do you think about this move?
So I'll start first and just break down, some of the things that you said in talking about the feelings of Bob Iger. I don't feel like Iger has failed. I feel like the goal was for Iger to get to right the ship again in terms of what was happening with Disney, because before he returned, Disney was in a weird spot, especially with the Marvel IP when it came to what is it, quantity over quantity. And I feel like for Iger, the goal was never to be around forever. It was to kind of right the ship back to where it was when he had left it initially the first time. And now that it is, you can argue, you can say that things have, while it's not perfect, it has been righted from where it was, where we were getting a lot of middling content and a lot of okay content versus impressive content and top tier content, especially from some of their major IPs, whether we're talking about Star Wars, whether we're talking about Marvel. I'm getting some deja vu of the prior time that he left and left as CEO, where around that time, if memory serves, it was around that time where we were getting the end of a certain saga with Marvel, where we were getting what is it the Infinity War and Endgame. It was right around that time, and lo and behold, look where we are now. We're about to get an end of another era of the Marvel films, of us getting Doomsday and Secret Wars. So I find that synergy interesting, and that we have that kind of deja vu that's happening there. But I don't feel like it was that this second round for him was unsuccessful. I feel like it was basically kind of like a cleanup period for him of trying to right the ship. And now that I feel like likely feels that the ship has been righted, where we have fewer Marvel releases coming out in a given year, where the focus has been more on the quality of having fewer projects versus throwing out everything as that you possibly can and not really worrying about the quality. I feel like they've been able to write that part of it, and now that they're heading in that momentum, and he's kind of helped reestablish that momentum. Now he's able to hand it off to someone else. Now, as you said, with this new CEO, there is a lot that they are going to have to take on, obviously, with all the properties that we or entities that are included when we're talking about Disney. But I feel like the big thing that that is going to be kind of their biggest test is what is going to happen with this, as you mentioned, this Netflix and Warner Brothers thing. There's still a lot that I know some people feel like it's a done deal, but anything can happen between now and then, where between now and that time that it becomes official that they are under Netflix. Right now it's leaning towards Netflix for sure, and And if it goes through officially, it will change the landscape of entertainment as we know it, and will drastically change the market for all the other said parties out there, Disney included. No matter how big and massive Disney is, it will affect them as well, because by having Netflix among those primary large entities, it's going to change the way, undoubtedly, as much as they may want to try to assure people that it won't. This being Netflix, it will change the way in terms people are consuming their content, especially on a large scale when we're talking about theatrical releases, no matter how much they may try to claim otherwise. But I think that's going to be the big test. If he can somehow deal with that storm that we likely is not it's not definitive as of yet, but likely we'll get in the near future with Netflix and Warner Brothers, then I feel like he's going to be in okay shape. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to know kind of that those similarities, kind of like what we were talking about in the sports cooler segment before, of what we had with the Patriots, where there's a lot of weird similarities and synergy from a prior time in the past that I'm feeling here, and a similar thing is happening here with Disney, with Bob Iger, in terms of where things stand with some of the IPs. It's roughly around the same time, this time when he was leaving before, that some of the IPs were in the same place. And so now that like I said, that I feel like he has been able to accomplish kind of writing things back to where he feels comfortable for them to be, like it was before. Now I feel like it makes sense for him to drop from that position and to hand it over to someone new.
Yeah, I can see that they do need new blood in there. Definitely, I think Bob Iger. I was talking about his really the last 2 or 3 years of his career. Obviously, their purchase of Marvel and the creation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was under Bob Iger, and one of the great moves in Hollywood history. That they at a point it seemed like everything they came out made $1 billion.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I
And
just feel
they've
like.
been, I was going to say, they've all, speaking of that, they have been kind of a victim of their own success. And
Yeah,
here's the thing, like, I remember a time where making $500 million on a blockbuster was a success, but because of the Uber, as you said, that ridiculous what is it, era in which Marvel movies were making $1 billion for every single release, it kind of made the industry jaded that blockbusters now need to make $1 billion in order to be considered successful. And that's
yeah,
also a testament to the amount of money that's being thrown at a lot of these movies. Because if we're talking about a $500 million profit on a movie, and you're still not saying that's successful, then that tells me that you're spending what, 200, $300 million on a movie. And for those of you that may not be aware, normally the same budget that's being spent overall on the movie is also being applied on the publicity. So you're doubling that. So that would be my only reasoning behind saying that a movie making $400 million or $500 million is not considered successful.
yeah. And I just think that the real test is, can they bring people back to the movie theaters? I think that if they're able to create things that bring people back in the movie theaters, maybe they can purchase A24 and start making movies that people actually are interested in, and fund that way. But I just, this is the change that Disney has needed. So I'm just interested to see what they will do. Um, yeah, that's really all I got.
Cool, cool. Well, what about you guys out there? You can let us know down below in the comments below how you feel about Disney having its new CEO. As I said, it won't go into effect officially according to the story until March. So we still have, I guess you could say, about a month or so. I was going to say a couple of months, but here we are already in February. So yeah, about a
Hey,
month or so. So you know what, 3-4 weeks, we'll have a changing of the guard, if you will, and yeah, as I said, just let us know what your thoughts are on it, or if there are any un unexpected repercussions that you guys foresee in that said regard. But that's going to do it here for us here at Movies and Shakers Unlimited with this edition of This Week in Pulp Culture. With that, I'm going to punt it over to Spills. Spills, can you tell folks where they can find you?
ladies and gentlemen, if you or your loved ones decide to spend money that you do not have on the Super Bowl and think that you're going to make back money that you have never seen, you are a fool. You're not going to make any money on the Super Bowl because that's not how gambling works. They're not going to give you gambling that's going to make you into a millionaire. So save that money, put it in a residual fund of some sort, and just get the money in the long term. Take care of each other and enjoy the Super Bowl. You can catch me on Instagram.
Awesome, awesome. So you can catch me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and then Brandon Choi _ ENT on Instagram. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there. Enjoy the Super Bowl, y'all. And we will see you guys